you asked me some great questions, which I've done my best to answer.
Yes, I think you have done really well.
Thank you, thank you. But as you asked me them, I thought to myself, actually, I think we should swap positions here, because I think you can answer some of these questions much better than I can. So here we are. We're going to swap positions. I've got the questions here, and Ken and Zara are going to have a crack at telling me the answers, because
we already have the questions.
Because you're in a better position actually to know some of the answers, maybe all of them, than I am. So particularly what I want to focus on is your question to me was about how do we inspire young people, and I felt at a disadvantage in talking to that question. As I'm not as young as I used to be. You both are, so let me hand over to both of you to talk about how to inspire young people, and particularly how do we inspire as well diversity to encourage women into our engineering sector as well. What do you think is key? Whoever wants to go first.
Okay, so while we focus on what inspires young people, we also have to look at the factors which take away the inspiration from the younger people, because a lot of my my friends and other people that I know, when they get into engineering, they do it really passionately, but halfway through their years of undergraduate life or graduate life, they really don't want to do it anymore. Because while you were answering this question, I was thinking about my friends back in my country. So when you design a course for engineering, for any course, so you really have to look into how that course is taught, like making it really simple. So if the course is taught in such a manner that it takes away the creativity, and that child who once entered the university, and before entering he was really creative, he wanted to do things, and right now he's the way that course is designed and the way it goes, it doesn't follow proper pace. That would be something that would demotivate him. I always wanted to have an opportunity to say this, that we are quite advanced right now in neuroscience, and we understand that, at least we've reached this point, and we understand that every child, every person has a different capacity of learning, a different pace. But when you look in parallel the way things are taught, so they're taught as if everybody's on the same level, and somehow our education institutes don't take that into account.
Well,
the ability. So I think
that's a great point. Let me add a small point to it, which is that I think there's pretty well established evidence that we all learn much better if we ask questions. So my wife tells a very good story actually about a lecturer that would send out some material, and then he would just turn up to the lecturer and say, okay, and this was every lecture, he'd say, so what are your questions? And that's it, no lecture. What are your questions on what I sent out? And why is that so important? Because the human brain is much more able to retain knowledge when the answers have come in to hang on a question that was the peg in the brain in the first place. So that's a small example, I think, of what you're saying, that the ability to teach the courses in a way that are truly involving and play to the psychology of learning is very important. Ken, do you want to have a go at something?
Yes, I do agree with some of the points that she said, but what I really want to say is that we want to instill curiosity in the youngest generations, because everything is given to them. They see buildings as it is, they see cars as it is, they see everything around that as it is. Like you have mentioned, the phone that they use they're all built by engineers, the buildings are built by engineers, the table is all designed by engineers. So I think really the key is to instill the curiosity in them, to let them seek the answer and seek the interest of how engineering and science and STEM is actually transforming and have always been innovating and advancing and improving the lives of humans around the world, and not just the lives of humans and the planet too, because we always have a responsibility, a sustainable responsibility, the sustainability of the planet itself. So I think the real part is to instill that curiosity into them and do it in a really fun way where they get really engaged and involved with all that stuff.
I think I'd like to add here as well, because as personally I can also relate to this. Every child is intrinsically curious, wants to know about the world, but somehow, as the child grows up through different stages of life, somehow the society or the setup that child is in, he's told to ask certain questions and ask to not. And probably there are environments, and of course in schools and colleges and in universities as well, where that curiosity somehow is not.
So I think this is a fantastic point. Yeah.
I think because I've been very lucky with my dad doing this to me, because when I was a child, this is a story. When I was a child, I was curious, because kids are naturally curious, like she mentioned. So I asked a few stuff, and then he asked me, you go look it up, read some books. Write an essay or whatever it is. You come back to me and show me all that stuff you've done, that research, and then I'll tell you which is wrong, which is right, and what you're missing, and you go back and do it again. I think that's what really instills that curiosity to learn, to not just study it, but to learn subjects, to learn all these things for themselves and not for just Yeah.
And I want to draw you both out on another thing you said there, Ken, a couple of minutes back, because you talked about curiosity, and Zara followed that up very nicely, and so we've explored that a lot, and that's really good. The other thing you touched on was something about engineering being inspiring because it's worthwhile, because it truly makes a difference to society. And I'll give you my little story of that, which is that when I started my engineering career, I was very motivated by the idea of what we called in the UK public service. I wanted to, I wasn't that interested about the making profits for shareholders. I didn't know much about that. That came later in my career. I wanted to make a difference to how people lived, and I sort of have a sense that became less fashionable for a bit through the decades of the 90s and early 2000s. But I think I hear quite a lot from your generation about that wanting to feel that you're doing something that's intrinsically worthwhile. Does that chime with you? Because you touched on that a bit, Ken. I mean, how important is that to you guys? Because we are, engineers make an immense difference, almost always for good, in terms of bringing people out of poverty. And when you think about the challenges, we were talking about earlier, of decarbonising our economy to save our planet, is that how to bring inspiration? It inspires me still.
Okay. I think that as a young professional or as a student, you feel a lot of pressure because you understand, you think from perspective of a student or somebody who's learning, is that they see lots of stuff going on around, and a lot of times these examples of Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg, all these are brought up, and somehow they're more told towards making money and things which are on the outside, but that it's a kind of a race, it's kind of a thing which probably a thing appears really attractive to them, because probably these are some standards of success that they're told this is something they have to attain. But they feel this pressure to attain that sort of affluence or whatever that standard of success the trends have set. But really inside, they have some other kind of track going on. Inside they want something else. So there's a contradiction that they're inside in. So it makes them a little skeptic inside. But I'm telling you from the story of my own friends and myself as well, like for some time that I felt, was that then there's this, a kind of contradiction that there's going on. So I think.
And do you think the younger generations have that same contradiction? What inspires your generation on this one?
Could I? Yeah.
Okay.
So, what really inspires them? The thing is, they all want to do great stuff. We all know that, right? They all come out undergraduate. Before they undergraduate, it's like, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to make this thing, and then have this influence and that influence. But they have to know that this influence isn't it can't be done in a short period of time. There must be strategic, to have foresight, to have a long game plan, or a long sight, to just see the future of what they want to do in the future and then start working on it. Because every dream that they think that they want to change this in the world, they think it's hard.
Zara?
So what I'd like to add here as well is that, I mean, when early in your career, or when you're a child and you're told what you want to be, so we should rather educate our children about, I think it really starts here in asking them or educating them about, we need a kind of shift. We need to ask them, what problems of the world can you creatively solve? This should be the motto of every engineering program or anything. So we kind of need this perspective to every course that we taught. So if I have like 40 students in my class, so all of them have their own capabilities. So I shouldn't expect all of them to be on the same level or something, but there's one thing I know, that all of them are going to work together in any sector to creatively solve the problems of the world. So I think we need this motto and take it forward. And this, I think, will also give them a feeling of living meaningful lives. Because maybe halfway through their career, they don't think it working, they don't get that satisfaction of making an impact or influence. So I think that's really important, this understanding.
What she said was is actually quite accurate. We need to, because when they start working, they feel like they are working in silos instead. What we need to do is to have a culture where it's sharing, a sharing culture where knowledge shouldn't be kept to oneself, it should be shared.
Yeah,
so
I would.
we need to share that culture and to make sure that this culture is in every industry, where we engineers could share among each other. It's not just like, oh, I want this, so we're profitable.
Yes, and I think that there needs to be a radical change in the way things are up there, because it's a kind of situation where you see there's survival of the fittest kind of thing going on, where he said that we need to be more sharing. Even in our educational institute, like some of them have these grading policies where there's kind of relative grading kind of thing, so everybody's trying to be on the top, and they're trying to keep this knowledge from other people, trying to keep it from sharing with other kids. So this kind of, probably when you stay in such a system for long, it becomes a part of your psychology, and then you stop, sharing. You're trying to keep things. You withhold stuff. You want to ace every time, but keep other people from it.
Yeah.
So I think.
And so I think
it's important to think that way.
So and the way to to key that into our point about inspiring is that if we can talk clearly to young people about what engineering is doing for their lives, for the lives of people across the world, and pin the attraction into wanting to improve people's lives, then that will create that sense of sharing and wishing to work together to create really big differences.
I think it's good to have those competitiveness in place, but the idea is the students kind of get into their own individuals, because they consider themselves as an individual instead of a species. We must look humans as a whole species, as one human being, instead of every individual for itself. I think that's very important.
Okay, I think we're going to time that out. I mean, it's fun. Well done, you two. Very, you know, how interesting. You know, you really covered some ground there. I thought you did a better job than I did. So you know, you could